Robert Francis Kennedy Jr., better known as RFK Jr., was born on January 17, 1954, in Washington, D.C. He is the nephew of the famous President Kennedy and the son of Senator Robert F. Kennedy. The Kennedys were quite the political dynasty back in the day. Unfortunately for RFK, he had to endure 2 family member assassinations before the age of 15. First was his uncle JFK when he was 9, and then his own father when he was 14. A few years later, RFK Jr. would end up going to Harvard and then law school, where he graduated in the late 80s. RFK struggled with drug abuse for a lot of his life after the death of his father, and it caused him to get arrested and kicked out of multiple schools. Even while he was at Harvard, RFK was using cocaine and heroin. I guess he was really upholding the Harvard reputation for excellence. In 1983, he was arrested for heroin possession, pleaded guilty, and was given 2 years probation. There he entered a drug treatment program, and his probation ended a year early. Throughout the 80s and 90s, RFK worked with various environmental organizations, doing legal work and representing various people when it came to problems with the environment. He even founded a law firm dealing with environmental issues. Now, it's kinda at this point where all of the Colombian nose candy and Afghan flower power started to have some negative effects. Now, maybe RFK was always a little bit batshit crazy, but it really started to show around this time. It was in his 40s that he developed his signature voice. Well, I say developed, more like got a weird condition that makes his voice spaz the fuck out. Although, RFK, if this whole HHS thing doesn't work out, you could probably make a killing in the hard rock scene. This is also around the time where his, let's call it controversial health ideas became a big focus for him. He became quite vocal about his views, which were varied, but his most prominent were his anti-vax views. Basically, his biggest claim was that vaccine caused autism. Adding to his health problems, around 2010, he started to have some memory loss issues, which he said was because of a brain worm that ate part of his brain and then died. Now let's just take a second to analyze this. A worm that eats brains ate part of RFK's brain, which was so toxic that it killed the worm. Clearly the worm had an effect, because in 2014, RFK saw a bear cub get hit by a car on the road, and decided to take the roadkill bear into his car to skin it for meat. He later feared that the meat would spoil before he could skin it, so he had the bright idea to dump the carcass in Central Park, and make it look like a cyclist had hit it. Now this story did make the rounds in 2024. However, there's another even more disturbing RFK animal story that happened a couple years prior. Long story short, he used a chainsaw to behead a dead whale in Massachusetts, and then strapped the whale head to the top of his minivan with his kids inside it and drove the thing home. Moving on. Now, RFK being a Kennedy, it was almost certain that he was going to get involved in politics. In 2024, he decided that he should be the next president of the United States and ran as an independent. I guess the whole vaccines cause autism and dead whale collector thing did not go over very well with the Democratic Party, or even the rest of the Kennedy family for that matter, because they all came out against him. Now, he did not get that far and ended up dropping out to support Donald Trump in exchange to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, which is a crime, by the way, but I don't think there was an explicit quid pro quo, so I guess it doesn't really count. Anyway, given this current administration, I'd be willing to bet that they would not be too worried about violating federal laws. And that's where he is now. A guy with no real medical training, making decisions that impact the lives of Americans. Or who knows, maybe that worm is still alive in his brain and he might have gone to medical school. Also, just like every other rich scumbag politician, there are sexual assault allegations against RFK, and he's been around Jeffrey Epstein.